Discover how a mistaken text to a billionaire uncovered an incredible $50 gift at midnight. Sarah's fingers trembled as she typed her message, the stark white glow of her phone illuminating the exhaustion etched across her face. I feel like I'm drowning most days, working back-to-back shifts just to get by. She swallowed hard. A casual thought for her sister, a momentary release from the weight of being a single mother, morphed into something more significant as she pressed send. Unbeknownst to her, the recipient was Thomas Aldridge, a billionaire philanthropist disconnected from the reality of her struggles. A single mistake sent her life spiraling. When Thomas received the message, initially puzzled, he recognized an opening into a world untouched by his wealth. Curiosity piqued, and with every ounce of compassion he could muster, he replied. As Sarah's phone buzzed in response, hope flickered within the layers of her exhaustion. Their conversation quickly grew from a small chat about hardships into deep discussions of dreams and ambitions. Yet, lurking beneath her budding excitement was an echoing fear. Could this really be a pathway to a better life for her and Jake? Or was it simply another dream destined to cascade into disappointment? The diner was drenched in the smell of pie and coffee as she served late-night customers, each cup of coffee a reminder of the never-ending grind. Sarah found her thoughts drifting to the trust fund she had discovered tucked away in her grandfather's hidden documents, $50,000, intended for community development, now hers by birthright. But with it came a gnawing moral dilemma: money she could use to elevate Jake, yet it derived from the very essence of her family's altruistic values. Was accepting it a betrayal of her grandfather's memory? Her heart ached, she longed for certainty amidst the chaos of tribulation. Sarah inhaled deeply, the air thick with the longing for a different kind of life, one where the weight of her world didn't hinge on 2 jobs and a constant stream of worry. That night, tugged by her conflicting desires, she stared at her phone. The buzzing notifications felt like chains binding her to the cycles of survival. She wanted to reclaim joy, but did that mean squandering her moral compass? The whispers of doubt pricked at her resolve, each wave of unease leaving her breathless. The town's elite, those who scoffed at her humble existence, would never accept her right to claim this money. Could she endure their gazes, their disdain? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension in her chest tightened further as the days blurred. The forthcoming town meeting loomed large, a stage where she would confront her fears. Each moment spent preparing felt like a battle, an internal war. How could she voice her needs without appearing greedy? How could she settle for the absence of hope after tasting what could be? What if the words she spoke only spurred greater ridicule? With a deep breath and unyielding resolve, Sarah knew she had to navigate this turbulent crossroads. As the meeting night approached, she lay awake, heart racing at the weight of her impending choice. Now, just as she stood at the threshold of her thoughts, the question reverberating within reached a deafening crescendo. Would she fight for her family's future, risking everything, or abandon her values in fear of the judgment that awaited her? The room around her seemed to vanish as, in the silence, uncertainty weighed upon her shoulders like a shroud, leaving her gasping for clarity. As the sun dipped low, casting ominous shadows on her once bright hopes, Sarah realized she was about to step into a storm one stronger than she had ever faced before. The evening air was thick with an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread as Sarah made her way to the town hall. Each step felt heavier than the last, her mind racing through the myriad of scenarios that awaited her. A small patch of her childhood memories clung to her like a fleeting ghost, reminding her of the innocence she once had. What was once a world filled with dreams now seemed a battleground of harsh realities and bitter choices. As she entered the hall, she was immediately engulfed by the crowd, a sea of familiar faces that belied both support and judgment. Whispers tickled her ears, speculation evident in the assessing glances cast her way. Sarah steadied her breath, the adrenaline creeping in as she navigated the space. She had to hold firm to her resolve and project the strength she wished to possess. When her name was called, the room fell silent, the air charged with expectation. Standing at the front, the fluorescent lights harsh against her skin, Sarah felt the weight of her past collide with the urgent passion to push for a different future. This was her moment to claim her voice, but the fear of acceptance still loomed large. She cleared her throat, fists clenched tightly at her sides. "Good evening, everyone," she began, the tremor in her voice betraying her inner chaos. "I stand before you not to ask for sympathy or charity but to share what I believe this community deserves." With each word, she drew strength from the thought of Jake, a spark fueling her courage. The crowd remained silent, and in that silence, doubt threatened to suffocate her. It was a deep-seated fear, a concern for judgment from the very people who once cheered for her family in the town's better days. Yet as she spoke about her experiences, her struggle as a single mother working multiple jobs to make ends meet, the initial defensiveness in her tone began to melt away, replaced by a raw authenticity. "Life has thrown more than a few challenges our way," she gestured toward the diverse mix of faces watching her. "But I believe we can rise together, that we don't have to be shackled by the system. There is potential waiting for us in our community." The inflection in her voice shifted as she broached the subject of the trust fund. Her pulse quickened at each word, as if revealing a secret long kept. "I have an opportunity to use these funds, not just for my own family but for our neighborhood. It's a chance to invest in ourselves: education, resources, support. But I worry about the judgment, about perceptions." An unexpected wave of murmurs broke out among the audience, some nodding in acknowledgement while others scowled in doubting disbelief. She had proclaimed a truth about her struggles, and it was as liberating as it was terrifying. Sarah paused, eyes scanning the room, searching for allies amidst her uncertain crowd. The fleeting notion of failure began to transform into determination, a steeliness hardening her resolve. "I can take this step, but I can't do it alone," she finally admitted, vulnerability leaking into her sentiment. "I need your support, not just for me but for what we all can become." The silence that followed felt insurmountable. Each second stretched into an eternity, anticipation lapping at her psyche like the tide of her worst fears. Would they rise to her plea or let her drown in the currents of their expectations? In that pivotal moment, she realized that whether she would find support or disdain, she had already given herself a gift, a voice laden with purpose. She had voiced her truth, and now, there was no retreating into silence. As the murmurs shifted to curious inquiries and a few nods of understanding, a new tension blossomed within her, a longing for acceptance. Tomorrow, she would have to confront not only the town but her own doubts once again. The horizon unfurled in a promise of inevitable confrontation. Deep within, the echoes of judgment and potential suddenly crashed, igniting a roaring flame of defiance. As Sarah stood resolute amidst the uncertainty, a realization washed over her: the battle for her future was just beginning. Would she harness this energy to bridge the gap between her past and the possibilities ahead, or would she buckle under the pressure of expectation? With these questions swirling, the night ended, but the seed of her next confrontation was already planted in her mind, lingering in the air like the sweetness of a fresh start. The morning sun seeped through the thin curtains, casting a muted glow in Sarah's small living room. She rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off the remnants of a restless night. The echoes of her speech reverberated in her mind, each word lingering like a stubborn note that refused to resolve. As her thoughts boiled with possibilities and setbacks alike, an undeniable truth settled deep within her: she had invoked a storm she was now obliged to navigate. Standing up, she padded barefoot into the kitchen, the cool tile grounding her amidst the chaos. She had to get her bearings. The day ahead would not only set the tone for her standing in the community but would also test her resolve to push boundaries. She could feel the tension in the air, an invisible current urging her forward. It was time to turn potential into action. Her phone buzzed insistently on the table, a reminder that life still functioned in its oblivious rhythm. Scanning the screen, she noticed a group text from her childhood friends discussing a reunion. A wave of nostalgia washed over her, blending seamlessly with the judgment she felt from the town. Those moments, filled with laughter and promise, felt light years away from the gravity of her present situation. But oddly, They triggered something powerful, a reminder of the hopeful dreams that once propelled her forward. Maybe it was time to rediscover that kind of passion. After quickly preparing breakfast for Jake, Sarah retreated to her bedroom. The walls were still painted the same comforting blue from years ago, yet everything else about her life had morphed. With her laptop balanced precariously on her thighs, she began researching the trust funds, the educational programs she could foster, the steps she needed to take to solidify her pitch to the town once more. Hours passed in a flurry of information and strategies. Slowly, a plan began to emerge from the chaos, a lifeline she could grasp. Each line typed empowered her, revealing hidden competencies she had overlooked. As she typed, her new mission became clearer, to not only advocate for herself but for the unrecognized potential among the faces in her community. Just then, the door creaked open, and Jake shuffled in, his little feet pattering softly against the floor. The innocence in his gaze momentarily clouded her thoughts, offering a clarity that accentuated the urgency of her objectives. "Mom, can I help?" he asked, his teenage voice filled with eagerness. An idea sparked. "Why not help me prepare material for tomorrow's meeting?" She smiled, her heart swelling as she recognized the chance to teach him not only about responsibility but also about standing up for what was right. Together, they sat at the table, brainstorming ideas about the project, crafting phrases that captured their vision. With every idea they exchanged, Sarah's confidence crystallized. Group brainstorming with Jake was a bonding moment, fortifying both friendship and mutual purpose. As they discussed possibilities, Sarah felt a new fuel ignite within her, an assertiveness easing the tension of her earlier fears. Yet, an ominous reminder gnawed at her. The doubts from her peers still hovered like dark clouds in a spring sky. She would have to confront Jeff, the town council member known for his relentless skepticism about anyone willing to disturb the status quo. The thought made her stomach churn, but she felt an instinct pushing her to devise a strategy to counter any opposition he might launch at the meeting. With the pressure mounting, Sarah revisited her notes from the previous night. This time, she approached the words with a newfound clarity. Instead of seeing judgment, she perceived it as a challenge, an opportunity for confrontation and growth. The realization struck her: to rise, she needed to be prepared not just with facts but with an unwavering conviction. As the day dwindled, urgency surged through her veins. She stood before the mirror, tugging at her shirt, her heart racing at the thought of standing in front of everyone once more. Kane's enthusiasm had helped, but it was now up to her to deliver. Thinking of her speech, she whispered softly to her reflection, "It's time to fight for us." With the promise of tomorrow looming large, the doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts and sending her pulse racing. Who could it be, and what did they want? Would they challenge her resolve or offer the support she desperately craved? The uncertainty hung thick in the air, coaxing her breath to quicken. She hesitated. But one thing was certain: tomorrow could change everything. With a quick inhale, Sarah moved towards the door, her pulse thrumming in her ears. She half expected Jeff to be on the other side, equipped with his usual skepticism like a shield he was ready to wield. Her hand hovered over the doorknob, a collision of hope and anxiety swirling within her. When she finally opened it, however, the sight of Mr. Carmichael, the town's elderly librarian, took her by surprise. She hadn't expected anyone so kind-hearted. His gentle smile seemed to lighten the heaviness of her day. "Sarah," he began, his voice gravelly with age yet tinged with warmth, "I heard about your plans for the meeting tomorrow, and I want to offer my support." His presence felt soothing, and she invited him in, grateful to face someone who understood the community's pulse outside of the harsh judgments. "I've seen how hard you've been working," he continued, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Your ideas could really make a difference, you know. Kids like Jake deserve opportunities to thrive." As he spoke, Sarah's throat tightened. The realization that others believed in her movements flickered like a flame in the darkness. What she had regarded as singular weight, her burden, now began transforming into a shared purpose. "Thank you, Mr. Carmichael," she replied, her voice steadying. "I truly appreciate your words. They mean a lot to me. I've spent many years in this town of ours, and I've seen incredible potential squandered," he declared, looking out the window as if reminiscing. I believe you're here to ignite what has long been dormant. And with that, the hope ignited within her was fueled by a renewed sense of mission. Do you think you could help me gather some resources? Maybe we could search the library archives for successful initiatives from other towns. It might help strengthen my proposal. His eyebrows arched in delight. I'd love to. Let us meet there tonight after the library closes. We can dig through some old files together. The suggestion felt like a collaboration, a fusion of their ideas pushing towards a common goal. Yes, let us do that. Thank you, really. As Mr. Carmichael took his leave, Sarah felt a cascade of emotions. Doubt simmered under the surface, but now it fought alongside a blossoming determination. Each supportive interaction fortified her thoughts, reminding her that she was not merely a voice in the crowd, but a catalyst. The rest of the day slipped away in a blend of nervous anticipation and focus. The library felt like a sanctuary, each book wall a testament to the dreams of those before her. Hours passed, and she and Mr. Carmichael pored over files, their laughter infusing life into the dead weight of paperwork. She began realizing her worth beyond the confines of judgment. With every piece of archived wisdom they uncovered, Sarah envisioned herself leading discussions, inspiring change, no longer a shadow of her past fears but a radiant figure promising potential. Night settled in, and as Sarah drove home, she noticed the stars twinkling fiercely in the dark expanse above. Each flicker felt like a beacon of motivation, a reminder that even those seemingly small lights could create a profound impact on the vastness around them. Arriving home, she glanced at Jake, now fully engrossed in gaming as the room flickered with digital light. It struck her then, the youth like him were the audience she would strive to connect with. Yet, even as her own ambition soared, the looming specter of Jeff's relentless skepticism still loomed. Tomorrow wouldn't just be a presentation, it would be a battle of beliefs, a struggle to forge a new narrative. Could she really push past the limits he represented? The dawn would unveil not only her convictions but also the potential to reshape her community's future. The upcoming meeting wasn't merely a chance to present ideas, it was her moment to fight for what she believed in completely. With a deep, steadying breath, Sarah whispered to herself, I can do this. But as thoughts of Jeff drifted back into her mind, the stark reality echoed within her. Was she prepared to confront him in the ways he'd never expect? Tomorrow could ignite possibilities if only she could muster the courage to stand firm. As dawn peered through the curtains, Sarah lay motionless, heart racing against the silence. Today was pivotal, one moment could alter everything. The echoes of Mr. Carmichael's words lingered in her mind, his confidence an anchor in her sea of uncertainty. Ignite what has long been dormant, he had said, and she sensed the weight of that call to action. She sat up, her resolve hardening. The meeting wasn't merely about sharing her ideas, it was a chance to reclaim her narrative, to transform her past doubts into a foundation for growth. But then visions of Jeff's piercing eyes clouded her focus. His skepticism had always been a barrier, a wall that felt insurmountable. As she prepared for the day ahead, Sarah grabbed a notepad filled with her thoughts, sketches, and potential strategies. Her fingers lingered over the pages, and she felt a twinge of fear. What if they rejected her? Rocking through the anxiety, she acknowledged that her fear didn't stem from inadequacy but from the urge to influence with authenticity. Before leaving the house, she paused to watch Jake. He seemed unreachable, absorbed in his digital world. Suddenly, she realized he was exactly her target audience, the youth clamoring for change and opportunities. His generation needed to hear her voice. Taking a deep breath, she chose to send a message to her future self. Today is about clarity and commitment, she typed out, a promise to reinforce her determination. She hit send, almost effortlessly, envisioning her words as seeds planted for tomorrow's conversations. The office building loomed ahead, the thrum of bustling energy inside contrasting sharply with the stillness around her. Sarah stood for a moment, absorbing the scene, and a sense of urgency coursed through her. Was this her moment to step boldly into the light? As she walked in, she noticed a group gathered, their voices intertwined in a sea of chatter. Jeff stood apart, arms crossed, his disdain palpable as he surveyed the crowd. Her stomach tightened, but she stepped forward, her heart pounding louder than the noise surrounding her. "Sarah! You came," a colleague greeted her cheerfully, pulling her into the circle. Their enthusiasm was a stark contrast to the icy demeanor of Jeff. "Yeah, I'm ready," she managed to reply, forcing a smile that masked her swirling emotions. She scanned the crowd, wondering how many shared her passion, and how many clung to skepticism like a safety net. As the meeting began, Sarah took her place at the front, her palms clammy against the edges of the podium. She delivered her opening remarks, her voice steady despite the tremors within. Each idea cascaded from her lips with increasing fervor, fueled by Mr. Carmichael's belief in her and the weight of consequence wrapped around every word. Then came Jeff's turn. He cut through with sharp rebuttals, each point designed to undermine her proposals. "Do you really think this will resonate? Have you considered how impractical these ideas are?" His tone was both challenging and dismissive, the kind that could slice through confidence like a hot knife through butter. Suddenly, Sarah felt the room shift. She had braced herself for pushback, but his words stung deeper than she anticipated. Was this a battle of wits or an assault on her character? In that moment of vulnerability, she grasped a truth. Her passion was raw and undeniable, rooted in the very experiences that shaped her. "I have considered every aspect," she replied, voice rising as she allowed her truth to break free. "But more importantly, I've considered the youth who need change beyond the statistics you're so eager to quote." With that, eyes began to flick towards Jeff, a shift in the atmosphere that indicated he was losing ground. The tension in the room now felt electric, her heart racing with renewed courage. As the meeting progressed, she felt herself authoring a narrative that was distinctly her own. Though challenges existed, and Jeff loomed like a storm cloud, clarity emerged through her determination. She was no longer just Sarah, she was a conduit for change. Fortified by her experiences and her drive to uplift others. Afterward, she stepped outside, breathing deeply under a canopy of trees. She felt unshackled, her spirit ignited. But behind that exhilaration was a lingering sense of uncertainty. Had she done enough? And amidst the rush of adrenaline, a thought struck her: the battle with Jeff was just beginning. As she made her way home, she couldn't shake the feeling that he was plotting his next move. The real confrontation awaited, poised on the horizon, with stakes higher than she ever anticipated. How could she prepare for the unexpected? Determined to continue her journey, Sarah whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." Now, she had to strategize her next steps carefully, for the real test was still lurking just beneath the surface, ready to reveal itself. The sun dipped low in the sky as Sarah returned home, the shadows stretching long behind her. Each step felt heavier than the last, laden with the weight of the day's events. "You're not done yet," she reminded herself, drawing in a deep breath. The meeting had been a turning point. The clarity she sought was no longer just a flicker of inspiration but a raging flame within her, urging her to act decisively. Later that evening, she spread her notes across the kitchen table, a chaotic collage of scribbles and sketches. The day's turmoil and adrenaline receded, leaving behind clarity and a sense of purpose. She needed to strike while the iron was hot. Ideas swirled in her mind like autumn leaves caught in a gust, each one promising to elevate her vision. But where to start? In the silence, she pondered her method of engagement. Jeff's skepticism could be a tool, not just an obstacle. Perhaps showcasing tangible examples would shift perceptions. Disarming him with evidence might reveal the depth of her proposals, proving their feasibility while challenging his narrow views. She pulled out a blank sheet and wrote proposals at the top, signaling her commitment to catalyzing change. As she filled in the page, she felt the calmness of targeted focus envelop her. This was her moment to transform doubt into strategy. From pop-up workshops targeting local youth to exploring partnerships with established organizations, each idea took on a life of its own. It was invigorating, her pulse synchronized with her newfound clarity. Yet, as she pressed on, doubt crept in with a malevolent whisper. What if Jeff dismissed her proposals again? It would hurt even more now, as she knew that she had laid her heart bare. Each proposal was a fragment of her passion. No longer could she hide behind statistics. She had to embrace her story. Connecting her personal journey to these proposals would anchor them to her experience and resonate more deeply with others, especially her intended audience. "I might be onto something," she muttered to herself, excitement punctuating her focus. For the first time, she envisioned not just battling against a critical voice but rallying allies who shared her vision. Already, she could see colleagues' supportive faces from earlier in the day drifting back into her thoughts. They understood the urgency of transformation. She could frame her proposals as a collaborative endeavor that could involve them. With the evening stretching on, Sarah decided she needed input and she needed it fast. A call to Amy, her close friend and former mentor, felt essential. Amy had always possessed a keen insight into corporate strategy with a unique understanding of community dynamics. With renewed determination, Sarah picked up her phone, fingers trembling as she typed, "Hey, Amy. I have some ideas brewing I need your input on. Can we meet tomorrow?" As she pressed send, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. No more solitary battles. The journey towards her vision was becoming shared and collaborative. The next morning, she met with Amy at a cozy cafe. Sipping coffee, they exchanged ideas, Sarah's passion emoting with words that filled the air like music. The meetings with Jeff loomed but now felt secondary to her mission. They sculpted the raw stone of Sarah's vision, sharpening it into a defined, resonant message. Their brainstorming session moved quickly. Amy challenged Sarah to refine her pitches, but crucially, she helped her reframe her angst towards Jeff into a motivator. "Let his skepticism fuel your fire," Amy advised. "Show him the value of your proposal, dissect his criticisms and become the master of the conversation." As ideas flowed, Sarah felt fortified, a phoenix rising through the embers of doubt. She was learning to wield her vulnerability. The inkling of a strategy began crystallizing in her mind, how to weave her personal anecdotes into the fabric of facts. After their meeting, as Sarah walked to her car, excitement bubbled within her. She had a plan. But lurking in the back of her mind was the realization that she'd have to confront Jeff head-on, not just to defend her ideas, but to dismantle the barrier he represented. What would she do when the moment of truth came? Ready or not, change was on the horizon. And she would stand firm at the forefront of it. The frequency of uncertainty pulsed through her veins like a drumbeat of impending confrontation. Was she truly prepared for what lay ahead? As Sarah stood outside her car, the wind tousling her hair, she felt a spark of determination cut through the ambivalence. Today wasn't just another presentation, it was a pivotal moment, a chance to reshape her future. She replayed her plan in her mind, solidifying each element, preparing for the onslaught of possible challenges. Inside her office, the atmosphere buzzed with a strange mix of anticipation and apprehension. Colleagues moved about, engaged in discussions, their energy contagious yet intimidating. Sarah understood that Jeff held the power to either stifle her enthusiasm or amplify it. Instead of shying away, her resolve strengthened. She would not only present her ideas but share her story, her struggles, her successes, everything that molded her vision. As the clock inched closer to their meeting time, she reviewed everything one last time. The proposals were no longer mere words on a page, they embodied her passion and commitment. She had woven personal anecdotes into statistics, prepared counterarguments for Jeff's potential criticisms, and visualized responses to every possible question. Each detail was an essential thread in the tapestry she was weaving, a tapestry that depicted not just data, but heart and resolve. The moment finally arrived. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all those who had supported her surge through her. Jeff arrived, the calculating look on his face oscillating between skepticism and curiosity. Sarah began her presentation with a firm voice, explaining her vision, each point punctuated with both evidence and personal narrative. She noticed Jeff's expression shift as she spoke, the corners of his mouth tightening, and it propelled her forward. "Imagine," she said, locking eyes with him, "a space where the youth feel empowered, a place where they can nurture their talents. This isn't just about numbers, I lived through it. I know what it feels like to search for guidance and be met with silence." The air in the room shifted, the tension palpable. Jeff shot her a skeptical glance, his brow furrowed. "But can you ensure consistent participation?" people can't be relied upon. Participation is a shared commitment. Our proposal isn't simply about programs, it's about building a community of trust, something I've seen work in tangible ways. As the words left her lips, Sarah felt her confidence swell. Each rebuttal strengthened her narrative, transforming her apprehension into a palpable form of empowerment. Yet, as she spoke, she could almost hear the ticking clock in her mind, counting down until this moment would end. She had to seize it, to ensure the echo of her vision lingered past their meeting. "Let us test it," she proposed. "We can conduct a 1-month pilot program, gauge the responses, and evaluate the approach's effectiveness. I'll oversee it personally." In that moment, Sarah's boldness surprised even her. It was a manifest display of the growth she had undergone. Jeff's initial skepticism was now tinged with intrigue, and the slightest nod from him suggested he might be re-evaluating. Feeling a flicker of hope, she pressed on, "We can adapt. If it works, we expand. If it doesn't, we dissect it for improvement. The only failure would be in walking away without trying." The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging delicately in the air. The tension felt almost electric, and Sarah realized how much she wanted this, not just for herself but for the countless others who would benefit. And then it happened. Jeff turned to her, his expression twisting into one of contemplation. "You really believe in this, don't you?" The sincerity in his voice sent a shiver of anticipation down her spine. As she read his expression, uncertainty mixed with intrigue danced behind his eyes. "Yes," she affirmed, allowing the strength of her conviction to resonate with clarity. "And I know that together, we can shape something truly impactful." The conversation hung in balance, a moment suffused with potential. What would Jeff's next words mean for her vision? Would he challenge her again, or would something shift? With everything she had laid on the table, the air thickened with unresolved tension. Sarah could feel the scales tipping, but the conclusion remained just out of reach. Then Jeff leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful crease etching across his forehead. "Let us find out more about this." In that moment, the path grew more intricate. How would Sarah navigate this burgeoning relationship? The tension of possibility enveloped her as she prepared to delve deeper into unknown territory. What lay ahead in the balance of their alliance? Would Jeff be an ally or a stumbling block as she fought for her dreams? The clock was ticking, and time was running out for clarity. Sarah felt as if she were suspended in time, every second stretching as she awaited Jeff's response. His focus shifted away from her, settling purposefully on the documents spread out on the table, as if weighing their worth against the fragility of their shared moment. The anxiety coiling within her intensified, each breath a reminder of the risk she had taken. "Let us adjust our approach," Jeff finally said, breaking the silence. "If we're going to test this pilot program, I want metrics. I need quantifiable success to justify the investment." A flicker of hesitance crossed her mind. Was he still skeptical? Or merely cautious? She straightened, determination rising in her chest. "I understand that, Jeff. We can define specific outcomes, engagement levels, participant feedback, and observable progress. The data will paint the picture. Engagement levels can be deceiving. I'm looking for real, sustainable change," he replied, his tone bordering on dismissive. Yet the spark of his challenge ignited something inside Sarah. She had been at the mercy of others' expectations for too long. "Then let's ensure we establish continuous feedback loops throughout the month. We'll pivot strategies based on what we learn. This isn't a rigid process." Her voice gained momentum as she spoke, fueled by the urgency of the moment. "Okay." Jeff scrutinized her, as if deciding whether her enthusiasm was genuine or simply a strategy to gloss over his concerns. "But this isn't just about you. It affects the entire team, potentially our entire direction. If we fail, the repercussions will hit us all." The shadows of doubt clawed at her mind, but she knew there was no retreat. It won't fail. We've seen how proactive engagement can elevate potential. I will ensure accountability not only from the participants but from myself as well, she asserted, the words firm and unyielding. Jeff leaned back again, this time with an expression of cautious interest. Have you thought about how you'll personally contribute to this success? It's one thing to lead, it's another to embody the change you want to see. That question landed heavily, like a stone disrupting her carefully curated narrative. She had planned for statistics, customer feedback, and community interest, but his words cut through the core of her aspirations. What could she bring that was uniquely her own? Fumbling for an answer, she realized this was an opportunity for deeper authenticity. Jeff, she began slowly, this isn't just a job for me. Growing up, I faced so many barriers in finding support for my ambitions. And now that I have the chance, I won't just delegate. I will be present, actively participating, encouraging others to build their dreams. As his gaze met hers, something shifted in their dynamic. The wall of skepticism began to crumble. All right, he said, a hint of approval creeping into his tone. You have a month. Let us see what you can do, but remember, I'll expect results, not just enthusiasm. Relief flooded through Sarah, balanced precariously with a rush of responsibility. She had the go-ahead, but above all else, she needed to prove not only to him but to herself that she was capable of transforming aspirations into reality. Stepping out of the meeting room, her pulse raced, the mixed euphoria of victory and trepidation surging through her veins. The stakes felt higher now, but she had ignited a fire within herself that had been dormant for too long. As she settled back into her office, she began recalibrating her strategies. She juggled tasks, diving into research, setting up meetings, and drafting outreach plans, the clock ticking relentlessly down to the start of the pilot. But amidst the whirlwind of planning, a question nagged at her: could she maintain this momentum as reality crushed down on her aspirations? Each choice she made felt like a statement of intent, yet the weight of expectations loomed ominously. Just then, Sarah received an unexpected text, the screen illuminating her, breaking her concentration. It was a familiar number associated with an opportunity she had nearly forgotten. Curious, she opened it, her heart racing. Let us discuss some possibilities over dinner. I have ideas I think you'll find invaluable. Could this turn lead to an even greater advantage? The moment hovered, tantalizing and treacherous all at once. What kind of opportunities awaited her, and would she be able to juggle them alongside her burgeoning project with Jeff? Determined to seize this chance, she hesitated only briefly before responding. But anxiety settled back into her chest as she typed, wondering if she was extending herself too far too quickly. What awaited her beyond that invitation? The next chapter in her journey was about to unfold, and the choices she made now could either elevate her or push her to the brink of her limits. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows in Sarah's office as she settled into her chair, the weight of the day's decisions pressing heavily on her shoulders. The invitation loomed in her mind, tantalizing and daunting in equal measure. Who was reaching out, and why now? The same gnawing uncertainty she had felt in the meeting with Jeff returned, turning the potential for opportunity into a daunting climbing wall. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, contemplating her response. What if this was just a trap laid by the universe to test her resolve? Could she afford to step outside her carefully carved path for something uncharted? This was about more than just dinner, it was about building a future on her terms, not being confined to others' expectations. She inhaled deeply, drawing strength from within, and with a swift motion, sent her response. Sure, I'd love to catch up. When and where? Almost immediately, a reply buzzed through. How about tomorrow at 7 at the new Italian place downtown? Something in the casualness of the suggestion unnerved her. Dining was an intimate affair, often laden with unwritten rules and unspoken tensions. Yet, there was an enticing thrill in the potential on the other side of this meeting. Could it lead her closer to the professional transformation she craved? As the evening stretched out before her, Sarah opened her planner. Her pilot program needed fine-tuning, a synchronization of metrics and insights that would drive the initiative forward. She jotted down engagement ideas, ranging from interactive workshops to real-time feedback mechanisms. Yet beneath the surface, another voice wrestled for attention, the prospect of this new dinner weighed by fear of distraction. You can't risk losing focus, she scolded herself. But the allure of opportunity begged her to reconsider. The world of high-stakes negotiation and bold players had always called to her in flashes of daydreams. What if this dinner could unlock doors long closed to her ambition? She had clawed her way up in a competitive environment, yet always felt an invisible barrier held her back. That notion lingered through the evening, even as she prepared for bed. Each reason against meeting danced with thoughts of exhilarating possibilities flitting through her mind like fireflies. Under the moonlit haze, she contemplated the merging paths before her. Would this dinner lead to an essential partnership or create a distraction that could derail her mission with Jeff? Morning arrived, and Sarah awoke invigorated, her mind tingling at the thought of the meeting later. A part of her was exhilarated while another protested the impulsiveness of her decision. She had responsibilities, an impending project, and expectations. But the emergent tension in her mind birthed a restless energy that urged her to discover if she could indeed wield her own destiny, rather than merely surrendering to it. As she moved towards her desk, a quick glance at the mirror reflected a determined visage looking back. Sarah shook off the lingering doubts, her heart echoing a resolute rhythm. The time had come to navigate uncharted waters, balancing the tightrope between her pilot program and the opportunity sprouting from that unexpected message. Writing the anticipation into her day, she focused on her next steps, intertwining her pilot preparation with research on the new venture. What insights could she glean from this dinner? She would blend her passionate pursuit of growth with this potential encounter, using it as fuel to propel her forward instead of letting it distract her. As the clock inched towards 6, curiosity built within her. The restaurant was heralded for its innovation as much as its cuisine. What would be offered to her that evening? The stakes enveloped her thoughts. Was she about to connect with someone who could aid her ascent, or would she merely become another networking casualty, lost in life's tangled web of unfulfilling exchanges? As Sarah walked into the restaurant, anticipation surged through her veins, and she took a moment to soak in the ambience. She recognized the critical choice before her, one that encompassed more than just the evening ahead. Yet as she peered around the room, a ripple of apprehension seized her. What if she wasn't enough? The question hung in the air, and her heart raced with the potential crisis lurking just behind a simple, yet powerful, interaction. When would she confront the reality of her own ambitions? Could she stamp out the shadows of doubt that had haunted her for so long? The evening loomed like a dramatic spotlight, eager to peel back layers she had carefully constructed. What awaited her on the other side of this striking opportunity? The moment was about to unveil itself, a pivot point that could either endorse her resolve or unravel everything she had worked to build. The dinner was resplendent with soft lights and the rich aroma of Italian flavors wafting through the air. As Sarah stepped inside, the familiarity of fine dining contrasted sharply with her routine life, a life spent juggling shifts and single motherhood. But now, she was here to explore a different path, one that could lift her beyond the barriers that had confined her for so long. As her eyes scanned the room, they locked onto a figure seated at a corner table: Ethan Carter, a formidable entrepreneur known for his innovative startups. The anticipation bubbling within her intensified as she crossed the dimly lit space, her heart racing with uncertainty and excitement. This was an opportunity she couldn't allow to slip away. "Hey, Sarah. I'm glad you made it," Ethan greeted, his smile brightening the ambience. She couldn't help but feel welcomed. His presence was warm, yet his reputation loomed large. As they settled into conversation, he began to share insights about his latest ventures, his words emphasizing an unyielding commitment to bringing change. Yet, as the evening progressed, Sarah realized how crucial it was for her to not just absorb his wisdom, but actively contribute her own narrative. She spoke passionately about her pilot program, the community investment ideas she had developed, the struggles she faced as a single mother, and her vision for a brighter future encompassing the youth of her town. "I believe communities thrive when they invest in their young people," she asserted, her voice steadying with conviction. "We can spark innovation and growth if we nurture their potential now." Ethan listened intently, his gaze thoughtful. "That's exactly what we need: community-dedicated initiatives. But how will you ensure engagement beyond initial interest?" "By creating pathways for involvement, real pathways that allow youth to see tangible outcomes from their participation. Workshops, mentorships, and opportunities tailored specifically to them," she replied, recalling her earlier conversations with Jake about building his future. It's not just about giving resources, it's about cultivating connections that last. Ethan scrutinized her, and for a moment, she felt exposed. That's an ambitious vision. Have you considered partnerships with local businesses to amplify your efforts? His questions pushed her to think strategically. I had thought about it, but I would need to create a pitch that showcases mutual benefits for both parties, she mused, excitement building. Perhaps showing how investments lead to reduced unemployment and stronger community identity. Their conversation flowed freely for hours, each exchange leaving Sarah invigorated, empowered, and ever more alive. She transformed from just a listener to a collaborator, sharing anecdotes that intertwined personal trials with professional aspirations. The barriers she had previously felt began to dissolve, replaced by an exhilarating sense of shared purpose. Sarah, I think you have something profound here, Ethan remarked as he leaned back, contemplation evident in his demeanor. I would love to help you connect with potential investors who believe in community development. It sounds like you have the passion, but that passion needs to meet practical action. Each word he spoke ignited a fire of validation within her. She realized this wasn't just about securing funding, it was about solidifying her place as a leader willing to fight for her community and her ambitions and for Jake's future. As the evening drew to a close, with possibilities hanging thick in the air, Sarah understood a deeper truth. She had taken significant strides not just in forging her identity but in asserting her position within that identity. She had confronted her fears, navigated through doubt, and emerged not only with a proposal for potential success but with the grander realization that her voice, stemming from experience and perseverance, was essential in shaping the future. The next day, she met with Ethan again, this time surrounded by local business owners interested in supporting her initiatives. As she presented her ideas, confidence radiated from her. She was no longer standing alone in this battle. And as they engaged with her, asking questions and forming ties, she felt the weight of a community rising to support its own. She had ignited a transformative journey for herself, one that had tiptoed across blurred lines of ambition and community need. Days turned into weeks as she diligently worked to align her vision with actionable steps, and just as she had once doubted her path, recognition came pouring in. There were meetings to strategize initiatives, collaborations forming with businesses, and a swell of enthusiasm building among the youth she set out to engage. The potential was unfolding beautifully. Weeks later, standing before a crowd at the town hall, she shared the results of her pilot program, testimonials of change, statistics that spoke to engagement, and her vision of the paths yet to come. Each word resonated with the audience, and for the first time, the community responded not with skepticism but with hope and applause. The journey had transformed her. She was no longer the woman defined by her trials but a commanding force, aware of her worth and the esteem she had cultivated through sheer resilience and relentless drive. As the echoes of applause washed over her, Sarah felt an incredible sense of fulfillment. She had crossed the threshold, she had proven her vision to herself and her community. She wasn't just a single mother struggling to survive anymore, she was now someone building bridges for the future. In that definitive moment, surrounded by gratitude and recognition, Sarah achieved an enlightening realization that transcended all expectations. She had claimed her narrative, and in doing so, she inspired countless others to rise alongside her in pursuit of their own dreams too. Today's triumph wasn't an end, it was just the beginning of greater transformations, fueled by her indomitable spirit anchored in purpose. As she stepped off the stage and back into the warmth of the crowd, Sarah felt a surge of belief course through her. The road ahead was luminous, and she was ready to embrace every challenge of it. She had achieved not just a personal victory but had shifted her role in a way that promised a brighter future for countless others. Now, take action. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like to support the algorithm that helps us grow. Comment your thoughts on Sarah's remarkable transformation. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of overcoming challenges. Don't wait even one more second to share the message of resilience and hope.